Okay, hopefully you took advantage of that 5-minute break and you're feeling nice and stretched out and comfortable and ready to do some research. All right, so we're going to do some basic searches first in Master File Premiere, and then I'm going to show you some of the more advanced features. Now we're going to stick with the topic of marijuana, but we're going to look up synthetic marijuana, which was a big issue back when I was a college student. So if I go here to the search box, and this is just doing a basic search, and I type synthetic marijuana, one of the first things you notice, and this is something that's very common in a lot of academic databases, are suggested additional keywords or things to add onto your search string. And in my case, when I type out synthetic marijuana, it says synthetic marijuana or K2 or spice. So we're going to remember those two other words, K2 or spice, which are other names or types of synthetic marijuana for when we get into some stuff with the advanced search. But for right now, we're just going to do a search for synthetic marijuana. And what I see are immediately about 105 results. That's not too many, but that's still a fair bit. And I can see that they're fairly recent. Now, there's there's actually two really important things I want to make sure that you guys emphasize when you pull up your results. And the first one is making sure that you click linked full text. Always make sure that this is checked right here. And what that means is it will give you results that you have access to. Master File Premiere and the other EBSCO databases can see a lot more results than necessarily that you have, but I want you to focus for these classes on things that you can actually get into. Additionally, publication date. Especially when you're dealing with a hot topic like marijuana, you want to make sure you're looking at very recent articles. Most of your instructors are going to ask you to keep it in the last 5 to 10 years. So I'm going to actually go ahead and drag right here and shift it to the right. You can see as I shift it that left number is changing. And I'm going to keep going till I'm at about 2015. And you can also type 2015 in that box. Now, if you're in English 101 or Com 104 or a lot of the entry-level classes, these two refinements are really about all you need to worry. And you can see right off the bat, this took me down to about 38 results. So that's nice. It's a much smaller world to look at. Now, I can tell you for a lot of these classes, like you don't really need to go past the first page of results. You can, but there's no reason to look exhaustively at every single thing. You're better off changing up your search terms, etc. Like if you're not seeing results that work well for you the first time, switch up what you're doing. Now, in our case, when I look at these articles, these are actually really relevant for what we want. I see here the newest dangers that correctional institutions still face. Synthetic cannabinoids, an ever-changing challenge. Cannabinoids are the class of drug that marijuana falls into. So if I click on synthetic cannabinoids, an ever-changing challenge, you can see here in the results, there's an abstract. That's a short summary of the article. And bolded are the search terms that I brought up. Now, had I searched for, say, synthetic cannabis, it would have probably still brought up this article in bolded marijuana. The database has the ability to recognize synonyms of words that you type in. And that's one of the great tools of using these databases over, say, using Google. Now, if I want to look at one of the results, I might click PDF full, or sorry, if I want to look at the article, I can click PDF full text. And that brings up the article. Now, if you're on a really slow connection and you have an option to look at what's called the HTML version, you should use that instead, honestly. It'll make your life a lot easier. And we're actually able now to pull up this article. Now, let's say this is an article I actually want to keep. Then all I would have to do is hit this download button right here, or I could right-click and save as to save it. If I want to cite it for my paper, one of the nice things is you can usually trust the database's cite tool, but it's not always perfect, and you can access that right here on the side. Just click Cite. Now, if you're in an English class, you're usually using MLA, so you just go down and pick MLA. Now, we can see it's mostly right, except for the fact that we know that the first and last name shouldn't be capitalized. So you can just right click and copy it. And if you have questions about this, please reach out to the library. We can help you make sure your citations are properly formatted. As long as you've actually pulled up your, gotten your articles, gotten your stuff together, we can help you out with whatever you need. Okay. So let's look at some more advanced options. All right, go back to result list and we'll click advanced search. Now, when I pull up the advanced search, you can see right off the bat, it gives me more boxes to work with. Now, one of the cool things here is you can use what are called Boolean operators. You've probably heard those before. That's and, or, and not to do more powerful search strings. All right, so let's look at those real quick. The first Boolean operator is called and what that does is it gives you whatever results have both of your search terms in it. And the search result has to have both terms in it. So if you were looking for cats and dogs, it would only bring you articles back that are like this picture. This picture has a cat and a dog in it. Or works to give you whether there is both cats and dogs, or it gives you if there's just a cat or just a dog. So it's probably the largest search net you can cast because it's going to make sure that it gives you all these options. The article could have just cats, just dogs, or it could have cats and dogs. Additionally, you have not, and what not does is it basically says, hey, give me all the articles that mention this term, but don't include this term over here. So if I look for cats, not dogs, it's only going to give me articles that have cats in it and not dogs. And if I look for dogs, not cats, it's going to be only dogs and no cats. So this little kitty is going to get left out. All right. So remember how we talked about K2 and spice being synonyms for synthetic marijuana? So what we can do here is we can actually go down. Usually when you're using synonyms, you want to use or, K2, or spice. And we can actually go ahead and we can add a new row, and we're going to put and because we want to make sure it includes these results, health risks. We'll hit search. So we're looking for synthetic marijuana or K2 or spice and health risks. So it'll try to pull up articles for us that are more relevant. And right off the bat, we notice, hey, we've got a lot more results than we did before. We have, almost 1,500 results when before we had only about 105. Now, one thing you notice out here is our refinements are missing. So we want to make sure that we limit this to full text to make sure we get things that we can access. And we want to make sure that we stick with fairly recent articles. So we're going to change the publication date to 2015. And that takes us down to about 207 articles. It's more than we had before. Then we have some new stuff, like, for example, this article that's in Science News called Drugs by Design. It lets you change up what you're dealing with. Right, so you can see the power right off the bat of being able to use these being able to use Boolean operators to make your search a little bit more robust. Just to bring us on home, please remember, if you ever need help with any of these things, reach out to us. We're only a phone call or an email or a Facebook message away. We're here for you. We know this stuff is not the easiest thing to work with in the world, but we want to make sure that we can help you get through it. All right. So stay safe and have a great evening.